When we gather in this circle of reflection, we are not merely trading theories from psychology textbooks or debating concepts in ivory towers. We are speaking of forces that live inside us, forces as old as human memory, woven into the architecture of the psyche. Among these forces, two stand out with haunting intensity, the empath and the narcissist. To see them only as labels is to remain on the surface of a deep ocean. To descend into their meaning is to enter the territory of myth, symbol, and the timeless language of the unconscious. These are not simply people we encounter, they are archetypal dramas playing themselves out in the soul. For much of life, the empath suffers. They feel too much, give too much, bleed themselves out in the hope that love will be returned, that peace will come, that the other will awaken and soften. The empath imagines themselves as the bearer of light, while the narcissist becomes the thief of that light. And so they say, this person wounded me. This person drained me. This person took what was mine. Yet what the ego resists most is the truth that even the most painful encounters conceal an image of wholeness for the self. The deeper intelligence of the psyche never arranges meetings by accident. It stages them with ruthless precision, orchestrating dramas the conscious mind would never write for itself. The empath believes they are only a victim. But then something begins to shift, through suffering, through exhaustion, through dreams that whisper in the night, through strange coincidences that tear the veil. Slowly, they begin to see something else. And when this moment comes, it is like thunder across the soul. The empath realizes, the narcissist has been their teacher all along. This does not erase the cruelty or the manipulation. The wounds are real. The scars undeniable. But beneath them lies a brutal kind of alchemy, one no book could provide, one no gentle mentor could deliver. Only the figure who carries shadow so brazenly could embody such a lesson. The narcissist is a mask, an inflated persona obsessed with its own reflection. But behind that mask lives the empath's own shadow, projected outward, demanding to be faced. The narcissist clamors for attention, adoration, submission. But what does this reveal? That inside the empath is a hidden pattern of self-abandonment. A silence around their own needs. A secret compulsion to give away their power. The narcissist plays the thief, but the treasure they steal was left unguarded long ago. The teaching is brutal, you are not only light. You are shadow too. And until you integrate the part of you that gives yourself away, the narcissist will appear again and again, like a prophet in darkness, demanding recognition. Dreams often carry this message in images. Perhaps the empath dreams of being chased by a faceless figure, or of handing over precious jewels to a stranger. Perhaps they see mirrors that shatter at a single touch, or hear voices rising from deep caverns, return what is yours. These are not random fantasies. They are the soul's attempt to show what the relationship is hiding in plain sight. Every narcissist who enters your life is a mirror. Distorted, painful, yes, but still a mirror. They reflect what you refuse to see in yourself, that you have mistaken compassion for self-erasure, endurance for virtue, and the idea that your light alone could heal someone else's abyss. The narcissist's lesson is the lesson of boundaries. That love without strength collapses into sacrifice. That giving without discernment is not noble, but naive. That empathy without shadow becomes possession by the needs of others. And when the empath finally begins to see this, the suffering transforms. It becomes initiation. Because the narcissist, in their relentless hunger, forces the empath to confront their own inability to say no, their own craving for validation, their own terror of being unloved unless they give everything away. It is a teaching disguised as torment. It is the descent into the underworld. Through this descent, the empath eventually encounters a paradox. The narcissist was not only their tormentor, but also their unknowing teacher. Not because they chose to be, but because the deeper self, the hidden architect of the psyche, used them as an instrument. In alchemy, raw, chaotic matter, the prima materia, is necessary for gold to be born. The narcissist is that chaotic matter, consuming, egotistical, unrelenting. But through the struggle with them, something within the empath begins to crystallize. A new recognition arises: empathy was never meant to be endless giving. It was meant to flow as love rooted in strength. Compassion without self-respect is not compassion at all, but a shadow of control. In myth, the narcissist takes many forms: the devouring father, the consuming mother, the trickster who tests the hero, the dragon at the gate. They breathe fire, not to enlighten, but because that is their nature. And yet, in facing them, the empath discovers sovereignty. In resisting their pull, the empath discovers courage. In reclaiming projection, the empath discovers the treasure was always within. This is the archetypal reversal. Narcissus himself drowned in his own reflection, unable to see beyond the surface. The empath, in contrast, lost themselves in the reflection of the other, consumed by their pain and hunger. These are two extremes of the same spectrum, one possessed by the self-image, the other by the image of the other. True individuation lies in neither extreme, but in their union. To see another clearly, while not abandoning oneself. To love without dissolving. To mirror without vanishing. When this dawns, the empath rises from victimhood into sovereignty. They see that the narcissist was never the source of their power, only the stage on which their unconscious drama unfolded. The chains they felt around their soul were forged long before, often in childhood, often in the arms of a parent whose love was conditional. The narcissist was only the echo of that ancient wound, reappearing so it could at last be faced consciously. Healing begins here, not by glorifying the narcissist, not by remaining in victimhood, but by saying, this suffering was meaningful. Not deserved, not justified, but meaningful. It was an initiation into selfhood. The empath who awakens becomes more than empath. They become one who discerns, one who protects the sacredness of their soul. They discover that love without boundaries is not love at all, but self-betrayal. They learn that the true healer is not the one who bleeds endlessly, but the one who gives from wholeness. The narcissist, then, is revealed as a shadow emissary. Their cruelty was real, but so was their role as a vessel carrying a lesson too sharp to be delivered by gentler hands. They drag the empath into the underworld so that, like Persephone, they may emerge sovereign of both realms, of light and of shadow. And once the empath reclaims their soul, the narcissist's spell is broken. Their demands no longer enslave. Their hunger no longer defines the field. They remain who they are, but the empath is transformed. The power was never the narcissist's, it was projection, now withdrawn, now reclaimed. This transformation is not bitterness. It is not building walls so high that no one may enter. That would be another prison. True awakening means empathy rooted in the self, not in hunger. It means loving without abandoning one's own center. The image of the Ouroboros, the serpent devouring its own tail, captures this truth. The narcissist without soul is endlessly consumed by their reflection. The empath without boundaries is endlessly consumed by their giving. But when these two collide, a strange alchemy begins. The empath, through suffering, learns to stop feeding the abyss. The Ouroboros transforms from endless consumption into a symbol of rebirth. Dreams confirm the change, the prison doors swing open, mirrors reflect wholeness, tormented figures transform into guides. These are the psyche's way of announcing that shadow has been integrated. From this point, relationships shift. The empath no longer unconsciously seeks the same consuming dynamic. They draw to themselves companions who respect, who give as well as receive. The psyche no longer requires repetition. The lesson has been learned. And then comes the final paradox. With time, the empath may even feel a strange gratitude. Not gratitude for cruelty, not gratitude for harm, but gratitude for meaning. Gratitude that life itself is wiser than the conscious will, that the self orchestrates even shadow for the sake of growth. To realize the narcissist was teaching you all along is to see your oppressor as your teacher, your suffering as initiation, your wound as doorway. It is to stand in the paradox of wholeness: I was hurt, and I grew. I was deceived, and I awakened. I was diminished, and I found my voice. This is individuation. Not escaping shadow, but integrating it. Not erasing pain, but discovering its wisdom. Not avoiding suffering, but using it as the crucible in which gold is born. The narcissist fades, but the teaching remains. The empath dissolves, but the sovereign rises. And the self smiles, for the work of wholeness has taken another step.